All right, you guys, happy Tuesday, or is it a happy Tuesday? Do you guys remember Miss Cleo from the 90s? Remember this?
You have questions. I have the answers.
Call me now for your free tarot reading.
Call 1-800-980-8637.
That's how I'm feeling lately with all of this stuff, which was so obvious. And I said a year ago that's now happening. I'm like, call me now, because I just seem to keep accurately predicting these political events. But I have a confession, you guys. I'm not a fortune teller. And by the way, neither was Miss Cleo. She was actually a fraud. And me, I've just been paying attention to all of the obvious signs and the words that are coming out of Bibi Netanyahu's mouth. And now we're going to war. American planes are in the skies in Iran. So buckle up, guys. Get ready to send your sons and daughters to the Middle East. And everyone who disagrees with that is apparently a jihadist, or as Trump is saying, a kook. That's what he's called, Tucker Carlson. Whose side are you on? Welcome back to Candace. Here's the thing. I try to be optimistic about everything, even obviously the state of play today, which it's hard to find the silver lining, but there is one. There is a silver lining. And I think it's that left and right, we can finally stop warring with one another, because it all just seems to be the same. Both sides are serving the same master, and that's apparently money and war, the nonstop war machine. Tim Dillon actually recently, I think it was yesterday, nailed it on the head, speaking about how the left falls for war and how the right falls for war and how you can manipulate both sides. Take a listen.
The American conservative movement, and they can be emotionally manipulated. The base of the American liberal movement can be manipulated in that way as well. All you have to do with that side is tell them that RuPaul's Drag Race can't do a show in Russia. And then they're in. So all you have to do is for the left make war about domestic politics. They throw gay people off the roof or whatever, even though do we have photos? I'm sure it's happened. How is it happening every day? And are we going to help that somehow by bombing everybody? Now, try to throw them off the roof now. We bombed the building. Like, it's not rational, but that's how you get the left involved. You just use domestic wedge political issues to get them going. The left is crazy. The right is stupid. So the way you get the right involved is to just tell them they're going to be killed soon, that they're on their way to kill you. They're coming to kill you, and we got to kill them first. We got to kill them before they kill you. Everything's preemptive. Everything's a strike. It's there, and you're in your cul-de-sac. You're like, Iran's going to get it.
I have to say, kind of got to agree with that. And we have to laugh at it, because if we weren't laughing, we would probably be crying. It's just terrible. It's so cyclical. And I'll ask the question, show of hands, who 1 week ago can honestly say that they woke up terrified that Iran was going to nuke the United States of America? Absolutely nobody did. But that's where we are at right now. Now, some are calling this a MAGA civil war, but it's not that, okay? Let's be frank, let's be honest. This is not MAGA at all. Some people are calling it MEGA, Make Israel Great Again. I would actually argue that it's Make Israel Greater, and that Trump just fractured his base. I believe he just fractured his base. Now, the Make America Great Again movement, as I understood it, it took very many bullets defending Trump and the Make America Great Again movement early on, back in 2017, 18, 19, because as I understood it, it was about the realization that Americans were last, frankly. That the elites had sold us out for never-ending wars. Effectively, MAGA was a declaration of war on neocons, right? On the people who always come up with a reason for us to send our sons and daughters overseas, sending unaccountable dollars. We don't know where all the money went. While American jobs, American cities, even the American education system was in steep decline. A lot of the rhetoric at that time was aimed at our veterans, right? Remember, the fallen soldiers, how we had forgotten these brave men and these brave women, the veterans who came back and weren't treated with any respect, the people who went and never came back as they died in foreign lands. Yeah, that was what the MAGA movement was supposed to be about. America being pulled out of decline. Rhetoric also aimed at farmers and ranchers. Now, what was the mandate? Like I said, keep Americans out of foreign affairs. No war. We were actually so obsessed with not getting involved in war that this time the left and the right actually locked arms. It was the literal appeal of Tulsi Gabbard. She was hated by Hillary Clinton types, the Barry Weiss types, calling her a toady, because after having served in the military, she was extremely adverse to war. And we were like, yes, that's great. That works for us. And Trump, by the way, if we're taking a look at him, he had been extremely vocal in the past for years, by the way, before he even ran for president, about the disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deemed to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
Okay, and he kept up that 4 years later, that same rhetoric during the 2015 Republican presidential election debates. Trump came across as strong, he came across as truthful because he took a bold stance against the disaster of the Iraq War and all the lies that were told leading up to it. Take a listen to Trump.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. But I want to tell you, they lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
Yep, that is the Trump that I voted for twice, okay? So we elected him in 2016. We elected him again in 2024, more or less the exact same mandate. And like I said, we were excited, especially when Tulsi Gabbard became the director of national intelligence, right? And I'm not kidding when I say that 8 weeks ago in March, she testified before Congress that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear bomb. This was 8 weeks ago, you guys. Take a listen.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
So what changed, you guys? What happened? Because now we're in this phase of gaslighting. We got all these IDF bots pretending that we're not America first for noticing that the messaging has completely changed over a couple of weeks. What actually changed overnight? And why did it change overnight? And the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. What Bibi Netanyahu wants is what he gets. He is the effective president of the United States and has been for a very long time, okay? After 2 years of the media persistent in their messaging surrounding the horrors of October 7th, which, by the way, the IDF mysteriously elected to pull their troops away from the border on that day. October 7th, when mysteriously also the IDF chose mysteriously to ignore 2 warnings which came from Egypt that Hamas was planning an attack. They just said, you know what, we're going to ignore that. This is all facts, by the way. The also mysterious decision by the government to ignore a plan, which they had intercepted, a plan from Hamas to take 200 hostages. They had nothing about that. All of this leading up to that moment in October 7th, when for some inexplicable reason, the IDF was just not able to get any one of their very many soldiers to intervene on that attack for 2 entire hours. Utterly implausible. Don't believe me? Just ask Charlie Kirk.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
Questions that Bibi Netanyahu doesn't want to answer. By the way, I should add here that in addition, when the IDF finally did arrive after 2 hours, they were instructed via the Hannibal Directive, which is a military directive that they have, to shoot anything that moved, including Jewish people. So the Israeli government was instructed to not let anybody survive, to kill everybody because they didn't want anybody to be taken as hostages. So, a lot of questions to be asked. How many of their own people did they kill? And why did it take so long for them to get to that border, which they mysteriously decided to leave vacant on that day? Now, Bibi, you would never know this because the Western media doesn't cover it, has been facing a slew of corruption charges, trials for what he did or did not do on that day. He also mysteriously instructed his administration not to record the discussions that they were having, as is required by law. He wanted the transcripts from that day to be edited. Among very many other of the accusations of corruption, Bibi's cabinet coordinated verified lies and propaganda to be shared with the Western media. Okay, you can read all of this, by the way, in Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper, because you certainly can't read in any of the Western ones. And why is that? Well, because they have their marching orders. Because virtually everything that we have watched and listened to over the last 3 years has been one long, unhinged propagandist effort in preparation for this war. AIPAC dollars spent, journalists funded to overreact to any and everything. I'm not kidding, right? So sensitive. Everything is now anti-Semitism. Everything is the Holocaust. Everything is Adolf Hitler. Every person that you knew that was in public magically over the last 2 years got possessed by the spirit of Adolf Hitler. At least that's the version, according to Zionists. They became radical and they became obsessed and they became obvious to the quote unquote conspiracy theorists like me, who told you the reason why they were acting this way. It was to prepare for war with Iran. I've been saying this, I'm not kidding, for over 2 years. Here's a clip of me saying it again just last year. Take a listen. Iraq, Libya, Syria. He says it, we do it. And now he's saying that Iran might kill President Trump. And if he does, then we just better all say we're going to war right now and not ask any further questions. Let me tell you something right now. Something happens to President Trump, I'm going to have a lot of further questions. And I'm going to make this statement to the American people. Please listen to me. Do not send your sons and daughters to fight in this planned war. They have been planning this war for years, okay? Do not believe them when they say they have weapons of mass destruction. They have been trying this strategy for years in various countries that they want war with, okay? Stop letting these elite oligarchs, very small group of them that benefit from these never-ending wars, allow you to be deluded into emotionality and irrationality and to allow your children to die on foreign soil. Not a single American daughter or son is going to die overseas for this planned war. Call me now, Miss Cleo. Like I said, it was just way too obvious. But I did get something wrong there. The assassination attempt of Donald Trump, or maybe he did experience some sort of an assassination of his opinion, his soul, because I'm not sure what exactly happened to the Trump that I just showed you, the Trump that I voted for, because today he is singing a very different tune. If you've been paying attention to the last 24 hours, he's now attacking people that have remained consistent, that are standing against our involvement in the Middle East on the basis of the fact that regime changes have never worked there. He's attacking, of all people, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, who we showed you on the show yesterday, was very gracious in his assessment of Trump, that he has a good heart, he's a good man. And here's why I don't agree with the Iran regime change efforts. He spoke about this very above board with Steve Bannon. Okay, a reporter caught Trump off guard at the G7 meeting. He's standing next to Keir Starmer, and they ask him to respond to something that Tucker never said. And here is what Trump says about Tucker Carlson. Take a listen.
The other thing, response to Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to the...
In case you didn't hear him, he said, let Tucker Carlson go get a television network and say it there, and maybe people will listen. So I guess he's kind of trying to take a dig at Tucker Carlson, even though Tucker never took a dig at him, and implying that Tucker Carlson is no longer relevant because he's not on TV. And what does he do there? He just exposes himself for being out of touch. Really? You have to have a television network to be heard in America today? What next? Tucker Carlson, go get a fax machine? Go get a fax machine, Tucker Carlson, if you want people to read your messages. That's how I read that. Completely ridiculous. But he doubled down on this. He went on to Truth Social and he said Tucker Carlson, who has maintained that we should not send our sons and daughters to die in another regime change war, since all of them have been a remarkable failure, at least for America, not for Israel. Trump tweets this: somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, if you're wondering, wait a minute, didn't Tulsi Gabbard literally just testify in March that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear weapon? Yeah, she did. And Trump has this to say about Tulsi Gabbard, who is his director of national intelligence. You can just dismiss what she says, according to Trump. Take a listen.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
What is that, guys? You don't care what your director of national intelligence is telling you? You don't care? Because Bibi Netanyahu, called you up and said, yeah, we need a pretext for war. Like we always need a pretext for war. We're constantly bombing and killing people all the time. We're committing a Holocaust in Gaza. Could you just go out there and tell them that they were building a nuclear bomb? They weren't. And there's been no evidence of that outside of Bibi Netanyahu's trust me, bro, because I guess you have to come up with something to make people hysterical to believe that we have this never-ending right to murder human beings. That's what it is. It's a carte blanche that has been handed to Israel to continually murder human beings in the Middle East, to use American soldiers to effect regime changes in the Middle East at the benefit of no one but Israel, okay? While they go, oh, well, we kept our hands clean. We didn't get involved in that one. Yeah, if you think we're stupid and we're not paying attention to what the results of all of these wars have been, Bibi Netanyahu standing before Congress and demanding that we go to war with all these countries, and then we do it. And then they go, oh, we had nothing to do with that. We benefited, but that's just lucky. We benefited Syria. Yeah, we benefited Libya. Yeah, we benefited. But that's just Iraq. Yeah, 9/11. But I don't know. We're just lucky that way. So right now, the lack of consistency, it is stunning to watch Trump do this. He's all over the place right now on social media. I mean, he initially signaled right away that America had nothing to do with what happened in Iran, that America was not going to get involved, that he was negotiating peace. Then he signaled that he didn't have any idea that the attack was coming, but also that he did know that the attack was coming. And now he's tweeting we. He's literally using we to describe what is happening in Iran right now. Let's just take a look at some of these tweets. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Oh, well, hey, yeah, we've got our planes in the skies. Okay, American troops might die, but USA, 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 because our stuff is so good and good looking in the sky. The big bad American planes are in the sky. What does he think? We're stupid? And the people online that are trying to pretend that we are the ones betraying Trump for holding him accountable to his promises that he made to us when we voted for him, when we encouraged other people to vote for him. You're pretending that we're the ones that are problematic? This level of gaslighting that's taking place. You got Laura Loomer out there saying, screenshot every tweet that's against Donald Trump. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. You better start capturing Donald Trump's tweets that are going out right now because they seem pretty against Donald Trump's ideas of yesteryear. That's all I'm saying. Everything that he said, every bit of BS that he called out, calling out the neocons, the people that were on the face of the Never Trump movement, he's now aligned with all of them. Everyone who hated him and called him Adolf Hitler, he's now locked arm in arm with them. Yeah, he agrees with Nikki Haley, the Lindsey Grahams. He agrees with every single person that we had to fight on his behalf to allow him to hold the office that he is holding. Yeah, he now agrees with all of them. And we're problematic. Now we are presumably the kooks. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And it should infuriate you to a certain level if you are invested in the idea that politics can be the answer. And the truth is that it can't. It really can't. And I have not been so stressed because, as all of you have noted, I have pulled away increasingly from politics and have been calling out the left and the right because it's become apparent to me that both sides lie. Am I a little surprised by Trump? Yeah, I am. Especially because it's just so soon and so fast and so obvious as he's talking about building hotels. The Trump hotel to be built in the Gaza Strip while there are literally children starving today there. What kind of a tweet is that? I mean, like, it's just, I get it that Miriam Adelson gave you $100 million. That's a lot of money. But man, have some dignity, man. Have a little bit of respect for the human beings that are still dying and have been being bombed for 2 years. 2 entire years they have been effectively carpet bombed. And you and Jared Kushner are out there talking about building hotels and what an impressive real estate portfolio you might have if people began to see Gaza as an investment. All we have to do is murder these people. And what's quite stunning, I want to add to this, is you reflect on it, and I think there's something like 1 million adults in Gaza. With the amount of money that we have given Israel, other countries have given Israel, the amount of money that has been spent on the bombs that they are dropping, that are being manufactured on the behalf of Israel, they could have just gone to every Palestinian family and offered them money for their homes, right? Think about that. They could have just gone and said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million for your home because this is a nice piece of real estate. But they chose to murder them. They are choosing to carpet bomb them, to gaslight the American people, and to refer to us as anti-Semites for noticing the Holocaust. They are choosing evil, death and destruction, while at the same time demanding that you recognize that these are God's chosen people. So did Trump betray his base? Did Trump betray his mandate? Well, Dave Smith definitely thinks so. This is what he had to say over on Breaking Points. Take a listen.
Yeah, Donald Trump, listen, man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of, corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
It is.
And I did not vote for the party of John McCain. Okay. And like I said, you're not going to gaslight me into believing that it was an act of my own betrayal and deceit. Okay. And not that it just seems to be that every politician is always in line with whatever demonic ambitions that Israel has. It's nonstop war all the time, which they are demanding. Nonstop. Okay. And there's a lot that I want to say here about reflecting on these last couple of years and things that didn't make sense at the time, the attacks on Christ is King, the obvious infiltration that was taking place. And let's be very clear, the neocons won. The neocons won. They have infiltrated successfully the MAGA movement. And I don't know if it was ever, I'm questioning myself here, was it ever about the farmers? Was it ever about the ranchers? Was it ever about the veterans? Did they ever care about any of that stuff? Or what is that just the rhetoric that you use to secure votes? And I want to answer that question because I want to get to this clip of Jordan Peterson that was floating around the internet, which I wanted to respond to while I was on maternity leave. But first, speaking of farmers and ranchers, if you have not yet heard about River Bend Ranch, it is time that you did. I am not kidding. Like, everybody's got their steak. I'm usually a sirloin person. I have never in my entire life had a better steak than the steak that I enjoyed from River Bend Ranch. Like, I try everything. I said, this is amazing. I don't even know how this beef could taste this good. The Angus herd at River Bend Ranch is not your average Angus cattle. 35 years ago, using ultrasound technology, the owner of River Bend Ranch began scouring the nation to identify specific purebred Angus cows that genetically produce a much higher level of marbling and tenderness than normal Angus cattle. After over 30 years of careful selection and breeding, River Bend Ranch developed beef that has notably superior flavor and tenderness, and they take great pride in the humane treatment of their herd. The cattle spend their days in lush mountain meadows of Idaho and Wyoming and are raised without the use of artificial growth hormones or antibiotics. And I'm not kidding. When we were working with them and they sent us these steaks and I said, what is in this? They sent me an entire packet to tell me how the cows are being treated, what separates them from the rest, and how seriously the ranchers take this process. I am telling you, if you're a steak person, I challenge you to try this beef, and you're going to come back to me and be like, Candace, thank you so much. I have never in my life had a better ribeye. I would never say this. I've never in my life had a better ribeye. They aged this premium beef for 21 days is how long it's aged. This is real American beef, born in America, raised in America, processed in America. Their beef is shipped directly from their ranch to your home, nobody in between. You should definitely try this from my friends over at riverbendranch.com. Right now, if you use promo code Candace at checkout, you will get $20 off your first order. Trust me, you're going to be very impressed. Go to riverbendranch.com with promo code Candace, and please tag me when you try it, especially on the ribeye, because it was just another level. Also want to tell you guys about The Little Catholic. You know how much I love them. It's time to upgrade your Catholic jewelry collection. If you love beautiful, meaningful pieces, check out The Little Catholic because they are the #1 place in America for handmade Catholic jewelry. Little Catholic is a family-owned business creating the most stunning and ethically handmade Catholic jewelry right here in the U.S. From miraculous metals and Sacred Heart jewelry to their iconic patented Holy Family Hearts collection, every piece is designed to last for generations, crafted in sterling silver and solid 14-karat gold to reflect the beauty of our faith. And what I love most about The Little Catholic is that they are committed to ethical craftsmanship. Every piece is made to be worn daily, treasured, and passed down, which is a constant, tangible reminder of our faith. Between First Communions, confirmations, and wedding season, now is the perfect time to find a meaningful gift. So head over to thelittlecatholic.com and use code Candace25 for 25% off your order. That's thelittlecatholic.com with promo code Candace25 for handmade Catholic jewelry that lasts. All right, you guys, I would now like to get into the final piece of this because a puzzle was emerging. Like I said, our guts. And I'm not, like I said, the Candace Owens was right, Jar. It's meaningless because it was also obvious. You just had to be paying attention. Like, there was nothing noble about me seeing Iran around the corner. Bibi's insane. He's unhinged. He says everything, and they're bad at it. Like I said yesterday, Generation 9/11 has grown up. But there was an element of this that I couldn't quite understand, which was this random incursion that we saw on the declaration of Christ as King. This was something that caught me so off guard, obviously, and how I somehow became the nucleus of this debate, a worldwide trend over Christ as King, an unhinged level of commitment to getting Christians to admit or to admit that, well, you can say Christ is king, but not if a Jewish person is offended by it. Like sometimes it can be said and it's anti-Semitic. That was a bridge too far for a lot of people, and we could not comprehend where it was coming from. Now we can. I think we can. So I saw this moment which went viral while I was on maternity leave. Jordan Peterson went on to Jubilee. Jubilee is, and I wanted to give credit to Jordan Peterson. I didn't watch the full 2 hours of his Jubilee appearance. I know how exhausting Jubilee can be. You are surrounded by 20 people who hate you. And so I was willing to defer to that, to say, okay, well, he might have just been tired. But this clip, after he had played a part of a report alongside about 20 other Jewish people to declare that Christ is King is anti-Semitic. And now he goes and puts himself as a Christian debating 20 atheists. We got to pay attention to this. So he's coming up against one of these college students who's pressing him on what this college student believes is his Catholic faith, because why else would you sign up to debate 20 atheists as a Christian? Take a listen to this.
Are you familiar?
Just didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a Christian or you're not.
I won't talk to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Would have been the easiest ever question ever. I mean, to answer, are you a Christian? Yes, I am a Christian. Yes, obviously I should be a Christian if I am producing reports about whether or not saying Christ is king is fringe and anti-Semitic. I would hope that I would be a Christian if I was doing rounds on, as he did, doing rounds on the mainstream media, on the Fox News network, and sitting down with Joe Rogan to discuss this, Christ is king, to dedicate my time to that. It seems so odd, right? Like, I think I just felt like it was odd. And I say this again, I don't have any ill will towards Jordan Peterson. I would sit down with him tomorrow. If he sees this, sit down. I'd love to talk about this. And I considered what we are looking at. And the picture is now so clear to me that all of this, like, that became the litmus test, right? For these people who were so behind this radical effort to make Americans think you cannot question anything Israel does. The ultimate litmus test for that, to make sure that you had Christians in check, to make sure that the Spirit of Christ would not come over them, that a Christian would not say, hey, it actually isn't okay to murder innocent women and children for 2 years. And to justify this, it's unjustifiable. And so what is the last argument Israel uses? We're God's chosen. This was the litmus test of the God's chosen. Okay, do you get what I'm saying here? Like, we are so chosen that when it defies common sense, when it is so obviously wrong, so obviously murderous, so obviously immoral, and amoral, and it is so obviously demonic, what we're going to throw at you is, well, we're God's chosen. And so we need good little Christians to get in line. And the best way to test that is to tell them that, anti-Semitism is so crazy and so out of control leading up to this Iran war, which is unjustifiable and is murderous and is awful and is demonic, that even saying Christ is king, you guys can say it. No, we're good with that. It's fine. But you can admit that sometimes that could be a little fringe. Again, I look at that, trying to declare that as a form of the dark tetrad or whatever it was, the dark triad, and psychopaths who are occupying the fringes are taking over to obtain power. I now look at that in retrospect and recognize that, no, it was psychopaths that were trying to obtain power and were going through this ridiculous route to do it. And they were looking at Christians for a reason. Because if you are a real Christian, you cannot justify what is happening in Gaza. You can't. You can't. You cannot justify giving this nation a carte blanche to annex, as they are about to do in the West Bank, at the behest of Miriam Adelson, for them to rape soldiers, not even to rape soldiers, to rape detainees who they say they can hold on to forever. You cannot consistently keep justifying what Israel has done and is doing. And that is what overcame me. It is obviously the Spirit of Christ to understand that you can't keep doing this. You can't murder children and put it in a box and say that that's what God wants. That's just stupid beyond anything else. That's stupid. Okay? So spare me your theology. Give me your common sense. That's dumb. It is dumb to suggest that murdering children is what God wants. And that's what they've been doing. And they needed good little Christians to get in line. So they need to figure out which ones wouldn't. And along came Candace Owens. Oh my gosh, we'll have to do a report. And then the other Christians will see they shouldn't declare Christ is king. Christ is king, buddy. We're saying it now. We're saying it forever. And we see what you're doing, because all of these people were also aligned with radical Zionism. And it's always been radical. The irony that they say people in Iran are fanatical, right? Oh my gosh, guys, you understand? This is how scary these Islamists can get. It's fanatic. The faith is fanatic, at the same time justifying Zionism, which is at its core an ideology that says that because we're God's chosen, we can murder and take and steal whatever we want. It at the same time says the United Nations gave us this land, but also ignore the United Nations and the ICC because they now think that we're murderous and crazy. The logic is just, it's unbelievable. It's all over the place. They can't streamline it because none of it makes sense. Yesterday, Israel has a right to defend itself. Today, Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself because it's a preemptive strike. So they have a right to both strike and to defend themselves, and nobody can do anything unless risk being called an anti-Semite. I'm done with that. I'd like to wrap that party up. And by the way, I want to say this to you guys because many of you are waking up and you are perhaps on the same journey that I have been on for the last 2 years, looking around and going, what is this? Because I used to be a Zionist because I just never understood really what they were doing. I was baptized by, the public school, the public school education, which is teaching us nothing but to be brainwashed. Hollywood movies, which, like I said, made us always feel like no matter what, make sure you defend Jewish people. They could never do anything wrong. And what really became a turning point for me was recognizing that I didn't even know the beginning of the 1948 story. I had assumed that the world would have been moral enough so as, even if the United Nations and the UK determined via the Balfour Declaration that, hey, war happens and now we're giving this and we're establishing Israel, I had assumed that they would have done that morally, that they would have said, here is the money for the home that you have lived in for thousands of years. The property that you have lived in. Here is money for that, but you have to go. That's not what happened. I mean, the Bella Hadid story is stunning. These people came on ships holding up signs about World War II saying, please, we're refugees, let us into your home. And the Palestinians opened their doors to them. This is the story of Muhammad Hadid and Bella Hadid. Yeah, the model, Gigi Hadid. He was an infant. His mother had just given birth. They allowed these refugees, these Polish refugees, to live in their homes as refugees because they wanted to help them following a world war. And then one day they came back to their houses and the doors were locked. They came home, the doors were locked and guns were being held and they were told, leave right now or some soldiers are going to come murder you. Do you guys understand? Just go through that in your head. Wherever it is that you live right now in the world, imagine your family has lived on that land for hundreds and hundreds of years, that this has been your home for hundreds of years. And then you say, oh, you know what? The Ukrainian war is happening right now. I feel really bad. I'm going to allow a Ukrainian to live in my house, maybe here in Tennessee, live in my house. And you allow them and you share with them. And you do this out of the kindness of your heart, right? Because you are being taken over perhaps by the Spirit of Christ and charity. And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked and those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That is how the land was given to them. That is a fact. No one can dispute that. There was no money. There was no trade. There was no conversation. They were effectively hijacked in their own homes. So the entire story of Israel has been immoral, okay? And it has really hinged upon our ignorance. We have all been ignorant and it's time to stop. Because once you know the truth, now it is your burden to carry, okay? If you are truly ignorant and you support something, as I did, back when I was a Zionist, hitting the ground, talking about Israel, tweeting about Israel and how we must support Israel, then that's okay. That's going to be acceptable because one day we're all going to have to account before our Creator. I have to hope that that is going to be acceptable, that it was truly ignorance and I believed that I was doing the right thing. But you now know this is not the right thing. And if you keep doing that thing out of fear, all right, out of, I don't know, a jerk knee reaction because you're scared of being canceled. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be you when you meet your maker. I wouldn't want to be you when you have to stand before the Lord and account for what you allowed to take place. because those children are dying. They are being burned to death. They had been carpet bombed. The access to those images, it's at your fingertips. And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail, Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. You just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do. God's chosen people were, as it was prophesied, Christ was going to come. God's chosen people, it was prophesied. And guess what they did when Christ came? They followed him. And at the moment that you followed Christ and became a Christian, you didn't become unchosen. Christians are the chosen people because Christians, real Christians, not the ones who have been baptized in the liturgy of the Holocaust and are defending these demonic actions, but the ones who are willing to take being maimed and caricatured and smeared and lied about to say something that is true, which is that we're not pro-life sometime, okay? We're pro-life all the time. Life is precious, and murder is never okay. Yeah, I think that it should be abundantly obvious at this moment in time, at this moment in history, who God's chosen actually are. And it ain't the Polish Bibi Netanyahu. If there's ever been to me any person that I would say most clearly represents the synagogue of Satan, it would be that man and maybe Rabbi Shmuley, who, by the way, they're all in locked up now, you know, Rabbi Shmuley. If you're a team Rabbi Shmuley and you think you're on the good side, you may want to reevaluate your life. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. Before I get to some of your comments, please excuse my rant. I do want to tell you more and remind you about Anyone.io. For years, I've been outspoken about protecting our freedoms online, and that is why I support the Anyone Network. If you are connected about or concerned rather about our three-letter agencies, Palantir, the CIA, the Mossad, or the rise of AI warfare, which we discussed yesterday, you should be legitimately concerned about how these technologies can be leveraged against you. I'm for privacy, which I believe is our fundamental right. We should not be spied upon by anyone, and Anyone is the only network that's not compromised and protects you from tracking by splitting your traffic across decentralized servers around the world. So do not fall for that VPN trick where you're likely still getting tracked and logged. The Anyone hardware is a physical plug and play device that connects directly to your router and creates a private encrypted Wi-Fi network in your home for all of your devices. There's no monthly fees, no subscriptions. Do you really want to be giving all of your data to foreign agencies and corporations? I sure don't. I don't like the way they're talking right now. The time is now for you to buy the Anyone device to keep your data and your privacy and your family safe. You can get yours today at anyone.io and use my code Candace for 40% off. But hurry, because this deal is only valid for a limited time. Again, that's anyone.io with promo code Candace. Also, lastly, I'm going to remind you guys about American financing, because we all know the credit card debt is crushing American families. It's going to get higher when these gas prices are definitely going to go up. Times of war, especially going to war with Iran. And right now, summertime expenses are making it even worse. Vacations, college tuition, it all is adding up. And most people are covering that with credit cards that are charging 20, 30% interest. If you're a homeowner, you do not have to keep living like that. There is a better way. It's not wishful thinking. It's a smart, strategic way to get your finances in order with American financing. These are real people who look at your situation and show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that high interest debt. One low payment, no upfront fees, no gimmicks, just honest help from salary-based mortgage consultants. Their customers save an average of $800 a month. You can imagine what you could be doing with that money for your family. And if you start today, you might be able to delay your next 2 mortgage payments, giving you instant breathing room. So don't wait any longer. Just call American Financing today. That number is 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, I would love to see your comments. Let's see what you guys have to say today. And we have first the former Democrat. She writes, I did not vote for this. Going to war with Iran will irretrievably fracture the Republican Party. Most of us conservatives will stay home during midterms and 2028 President Trump, please do not become Israel's bitch. Well said. Jake Johnson writes, we're not falling for the same lies that got us into Iraq again. Trump was elected to end wars. This is a betrayal. Yes, of course it is. And the reality is Israel has never had the bodies or the money to defend themselves. So this whole Israel's right to defend itself, it's never itself. It's all America and all the other nations have to rise up to defend Israel. And that's usually because of a very intricate system of blackmail that they employ. And when you can't ask questions about Jeffrey Epstein or JFK files and all that, it's like, this is a nonsense, guys. Come on. Incoherent writes, Candace, we appreciate you sticking with truth no matter who says it. We all voted for Trump here, but he isn't perfect and omnipotent. It is our duty to keep him honest. Yes, of course. And anyone telling you otherwise, please stop listening to them. Like, please stop listening to someone who is telling you that you don't have to be upset about the fact that you voted for someone because they said they were going to do something and then they didn't do it. They're like, it doesn't matter. Like, he decides what it is at any moment of any day. Like, that's insane. That is crazy talk. Rick Don writes, we told y'all about Trump. You guys were blind. Stop trying to own the Dems and wake up to the fact that both sides play us. Trump's play here, for example, his crypto coin, his cell phone, the Gaza plans could be seen a mile away. I don't know who we are that told y'all about Trump and who was blind. I think I don't regret voting for him because between him and Kamala, I felt that he was the stronger option and it is our duty to vote. But I did not, like I said, I did not foresee him playing us this quickly, despite taking money from Miriam Adelson, which was a major indication. And of course, him also visiting the grave of Schneerson, who was a radical messianic Zionist who believes that the vision is messianic for Israel. And by the way, I want to say, take a pause here to say, it's alarming that Trump is sharing this because he can't justify what he's doing. He can't justify why there are American planes in the Iranian skies. So he's sharing, and I think this is a marker of his own insecurity about what he is doing, a message that he received from Mike Huckabee, who is the ambassador to Israel, former Senator Mike Huckabee, ambassador to Israel, who sent Trump this message. He writes, Mr. President, and Trump shared this, by the way, Mr. President, God spared you in Butler, Pennsylvania to be the most consequential president in a century, maybe ever. The decisions on your shoulders, I would not want to be made by anyone else. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters, his voice. I am your appointed servant in this land, he's in Israel, and am available for you, but I do not try to get in your presence often because I trust your instincts. No president in my lifetime has been in a position like yours, not since Truman in 1945. I don't reach out to persuade you, only to encourage you. I believe you will hear from heaven, and that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's. You sent me to Israel to be your eyes, ears, and voice, and to make sure our flag flies above our embassy. My job is to be the last one to leave. I will not abandon this post. Our flag will not come down. You did not seek this moment. This moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you, Mike Huckabee. Generally speaking, a nice message from Mike Huckabee, but the implication there is that, this is God's design, Trump. So just do what you want to do and ignore everything because God wants you to be doing this. And it troubles me because this has essentially been the long-lasting Israeli argument that this is all messianic, that this is just how it's going to be, and this is what God wants: destruction, death, the death of Americans, all so that Israel can imperialize and get more power over the world. And that is not something that makes sense. And if Trump is tweeting this as like, oh, well, yeah, God's going to speak to me. No, I don't think that God told you to send American planes to Iran. I don't think so. I think Miriam Adelson's $100 million told you to do that. But what do I know? I'm taking a guess here. I don't think you had a vision about it. No, I don't know if the last time that you've been to church, last time you've attended mass, I could bet that given the fact that there are so many Zionists in your cabinet, that you've attended a lot of those meetings, given your speak about what you could do with the Gaza property while these children are still starving. I don't know. That would be my guess. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I've been wrong before. LG19 writes, serious question, will there be jobs or community military members can join when I get a dishonorable discharge for not contributing to delete people or my body for the interests of a certain foreign nation benefit? I love this question. I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers. And I would have said a few weeks ago that Trump would never do that to you. He would never just throw you into an Israeli war. But right now, our planes are flying in the sky, and things are going nuclear. So I don't have that confidence anymore. And I'm comfortable with people being dishonorably discharged because the dishonor has come from our politicians. The dishonor has come from our politicians who routinely lie in our faces and are willing to let us die to serve their financial interests. So why don't they dishonorably discharge themselves from public office? That works for me. And I think a great place for you guys to go into would be into security. There are a lot of security firms that are popping up all over. I'm certainly a person that needs security all the time. And I think that's the way. Start establishing your own security companies and all other jobs. I mean, you guys are the brawn, you know what I mean? And there's no question that America is never out of jobs for people who are willing to actually use their bodies. We need you guys, and I would totally respect a dishonorable discharge at this moment because you shouldn't die for Bibi Netanyahu's messianic vision. Dre Harden writes, Candace and Thomas Massie, 2028. I always say if Thomas Massie runs, I will run beneath him and after him and around him. He is one of the very few Americans that has not sold out the American people, which is why he is catching heat from Trump. And yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if something happens when you get to D.C. and suddenly you just become a prostitute for money and lobbying interests, but somehow, some way, Thomas Massie has been able to withstand that sort of peer pressure, despite AIPAC spending money to go after him and people attacking him online, IDF, literal bots. Again, how much evidence can we ignore? We have showed you clips of them saying that they engaged in the information war, training people to edit Wikipedia so that it favors their Zionist vision. This is deception. This is lies. This is the synagogue of Satan. You cannot deal in lies and deception and be God's chosen people. Duh. And stop listening to podcasters that tell you otherwise because they are a part of an infiltration. There's no question in my mind that they are a part of an infiltration. Anyways, I got to stop ranting at you guys today. There's so much more that I could say. I am Team Tucker. If I didn't make that clear, I am Team Tucker. I am Team America, America First. And I disagree with Trump's assessment that he gets to decide whatever America First is. So I said I was going to go, but actually I'm going to show you this Trump tweet because it was actually pretty stunning and really shows you where his mind's at, that he believes that he gets to dictate what is and is not America First. Can you pull up that tweet, Skylar? Sorry. Everyone's always in the comments like, poor Skylar. Skylar, get the tweet. It's like that movie, Mom, where's the lasagna? Donald Trump tweeted, America First means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. So you can copy and paste this, and this could be anyone's argument. It could be Obama's argument. It could be George Bush's argument, George Bush Jr.'s argument. You know, we're all America First. It just means whatever I say it means. It means that despite no evidence of them having a nuke, we've got to go and die because they could potentially someday maybe have a nuke. Yeah, we're going to go to war with China. Yeah, that's still America First because it also means that, you know, China shouldn't be doing better than us in the free markets. Whatever it is, we're just going to keep saying that. We're just going to keep calling everything that we want to do America First. No, this is not America First. War is not America First. Never-ending war and the never-ending excuses for why we have to go to war is not America First. And you know that. You know that. So don't say silly things, please. You can't just say stuff, Trump. You can't just say stuff and expect us to accept it. I don't accept that. I want real America first, and that term belongs to any person that is willing to execute on that. And unfortunately, it does not seem that you are that individual anymore. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see you guys tomorrow.